What is up, guys? It is Joe. We are back. We're talking about the Cats today, specifically the Portal Cats in the basketball side of things today. And I know you can probably already see it, but I'm in a different setup, so that's why it's a little bit, Jimmy rigged, so to speak. But even though it might look a little weird, the content is still going to be the same. We're going to talk ball about the Cats, something that I absolutely love to do. And if you like hearing some of that, consider subscribing to the channel. We are closing in on 2,000 subs, and at 2,000 subs, I'm giving away a lavender quarter zip, and I cannot wait to give that to one of you guys. As we get closer, I'll release details on the official giveaway, but as of right now, let's talk some dang ball. So first things first, busy freaking weekend on the horizon. K-State's got two different visitors coming in this weekend, the 12th through the 14th, and then it sounds like the weekend after that, a massive name to keep track of here. Now, I made a video talking about Mark Mitchell here the last couple of days. I've made a video talking about a couple of different players, including, Michael Brown-Jones. I've talked about a couple of different players on the channel. It sounds like we're getting back to the full circle pitch of where I talked almost a month ago. It feels like it could have been like a week and a half ago. Doesn't feel like it's been that long, but at the same time it does. Talking about UIC transfer CJ Jones, who is set to visit K-State. Now, in the time that I've had since making that original video talking about CJ Jones, I have fallen in love with the dude's game even more. Every time I toss his game film on, I am all over it. And I want to keep it short and sweet because I do have a full video talking about CJ Jones on the channel. But he is one of two guys visiting K-State this weekend. And just as a quick rundown, quick reminder, he's a sophomore guard at UIC, averaged 11.4 points, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 4.8 assists per game. He is a fast riser in the transfer portal. There's a lot of teams that are interested in him that are teams that are not lacking in the wealth department and not lacking in the notoriety department. I mean, these are teams that are really good programs that want a guy like CJ Jones. The more I've paid attention, the more I've tuned in, the more I like his game. Like I said, I picked out a couple of different stats to show you guys of different games from the past month or two of the season that I think just catch your eyes when you see the stat sheet. So let me read you this real quick. 228 versus Drake. This game went to double overtime, so obviously the stats are a little inflated. The guy goes for 16 points, 14 assists, and 3 rebounds. 221 a week earlier. The guy goes for 17, 10, and 3. 211 the week before that against UNI. 24, 3, and 3. On January 27th versus Belmont, he goes 16, 8, and 5. January 24th, a couple days before that against Indiana State. So the team that houses Larry Blurred, 17, 7, and 6. This dude is a triple-double guy. Like, this is a dude that's going to record a triple-double at Kansas State. If he commits to K-State, that's a big deal. I have a full video talking about CJ Jones, all the ins and outs, and how I think he fits, but I'll link the video card here if you want to hear more about CJ Jones or just a refresher on that video. I love his game. I think the dude would be a great fit if K-State does end up bringing him in. As a skilled wing guard, I mean, someone that's going to be a really talented passer, a really talented playmaker, and I think he's going to be a hot commodity as these next couple weeks roll out. Hopefully, K-State can seal the deal with this visit, and that is kind of the idea every time, but he's definitely a player to watch. The second player that's going to be visiting Manhattan, how about my guy, FSU sophomore transfer, Baba Miller? Shout out Baba real quick. The dude can play. When I say this, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, it's never nice to just clone someone's game and be like, oh, he's this guy, he's this guy. The way this man plays basketball is the same way Naquan Tomlin plays basketball. You can say it's Tomlin coded. You can say it's a clone of his game. Whatever you want to say. Baba Miller is absolutely not Naquan Tomlin's game. Like, that's the way this goes. A 6'11 wing, he weighs 204 pounds. Just to compare, Quan was 6'10", 210, or is 6'10", 210. So there's about a 6-pound difference and a 1-inch difference in the two players. He is listed technically as a forward or as a center. The dude's going to be a wing. I'm going to be honest with you. He's going to be a wing. Like, similar to Naquan Tomlin, he's a wing guard that can defend 1 through 5 because he has the size, the ability, and the quickness. And I think part of what upset him towards transferring away from Florida State was the fact that they're like, no, you're a big, you have to play on the low block. At times, he showed incredible effectiveness at taking the ball up in transition, shooting from outside. I mean, the guy has no shyness about pulling up from Marquise Noel type range, Tyler Perry type range. And he hit some of those shots. So Baba Miller averaged 7.6 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, and 1.4 assists per game last season as a sophomore. He shot just under 30% from 3, 29.3% to be specific. But like I said, the dude has no shyness about that. And the form is great. Like, sometimes with big dudes, you see him hit some shots, but it just looks weird. Baba Miller looks great. It's a smooth release. The dude can absolutely play as kind of a wing guard type player, as well as a stretch forward when you need him to drop down. I mean, being 6'11", you had the luxury of the athleticism to play with it. So the dude absolutely can play, and he'd be a huge get. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. This dude would be massive. Currently in the portal, because I know this is a topic that people like to cover, he's the 82nd ranked player in the portal and the 14th ranked center. I don't know if those numbers are entirely accurate. If you get this kid, you're probably not running him as a center. I just want to say that now. Like, this dude would absolutely be kind of on the wing for Kansas State. He wouldn't be a reserve big behind David Gasson, a reserve big behind whoever you put at center. Like, it's not necessarily that situation. Obviously, he can help out and do some of that stuff, but that's not his game. I mean, it can be, but that's not you're not getting the most out of his game by setting him up that way. Coming out of high school, he's from Spain, so kind of an international player to talk about. Coming out of high school, he was the 47th ranked player available, the 11th ranked player at his position, and the number 1 player in Spain. I usually say in the state of, so that's where I trip up a little bit there. And the dude is just a stud. I mean, all around. He's athletic, he's quick, he can shoot, he can defend, rebound. Whatever you need him to do, Baba Miller is a great piece. Now, is he going to be your starting center? No. Is he going to be your starting wing? Maybe. I mean, he definitely has that ability. Likely not, and I'll talk about my roster situation here in a second, but with Baba Miller, he's young, and you can develop him absolutely to where you need him to be. Kind of similar to Naquan Talbot in the sense that you get him as a junior, and then you show the upside of what his game can be. He comes back as a senior, obviously doesn't play with Kansas State, but you have time with Baba Miller. That's the case here. On top of that, he's an NBA player. He's already been on draft boards since he's come to college basketball. He's been mocked in both the first round and the second round at times, but if anyone gets him, they're going to get a stud. It's just about which coaching staff is able to see him as the right type of player. So not necessarily just tossing him as a backup reserve big, playing him out on the wing. Let him play on the wing. He's 6'11", 210. He's going to be quicker. He'll have the ball handling skills. He's got the shooting ability. He would spread the court out incredibly. So Baba Miller's a guy to talk about. Will he be more than a 20-minute guy, 30-minute guy? I don't know. Will he be used as a 10-minute guy? I'm not sure. But the dude absolutely can play and would be a massive addition. If you go 2 for 2 on Baba Miller, CJ Jones, you're in a great spot. But moving on to the third player we got to talk about here, and this is the big one. I mean, this is, for both reasons, this is the big one. This is a 7-foot center transferring from Arizona, the number 1 player in the transfer portal, Oumar Ballo, coming from Arizona. He's going to be visiting K-State as well as some other schools in that process. He won't be here this weekend, but next weekend he's set. Obviously, sometimes getting the first visit, usually getting the first visit is a good sign, but he's planning to visit both Indiana and Louisville. I think this weekend he's at Louisville, maybe it's Indiana, then jump at the other one during the week, and he'll be at K-State the second weekend, so the next weekend from now. And I think that'd be a massive one. We need a big, man. We need a center. We don't just need like a 4 or somebody like that. We need a center. And there's been conversation on the channel, there's been conversation all across it about Oumar Ballo, Clifford Amori. If you get either of those two dudes, you hit it out of the park. I mean, it's not like who would we rather? You get either of those guys. That's what matters because they're both incredible players. We're talking about Ballo here a little bit. Let me just read you some of his stats. The dude's 7 foot tall. He's a true 7-footer, 260 pounds, and he averaged a double-double. Last season at Arizona, averaged 12.9 points, 10.1 rebounds per game, and he's the number 1 player in the portal for a reason. I mean, I'm just going to say it like it is. Coming out of high school, he's the 66th ranked player available, the 16th ranked player at his position, and the number 1 player from Mali. I assume it's Mali. It could be Mali. I apologize for not pronouncing that one right. But the dude absolutely throws bodies around. He can post up. He can do whatever you need him to. He's a hell of a defender. He's a really, really good player. But from what I understand, the idea of getting a guy like Ballo, of getting a dude like Clifford Amori, those are must-haves. I'm not saying it has to be those two perfectly, but if you have the option to swing and get a guy that's a top 5 player in the portal, go all you can. Do what you can to get those guys. But Ballo's showing that, hey, I want to go visit Kansas State. That is a big deal. Now, to round this video out, because I think this is a good topic, I also listed my ideal roster of what I want to look like. Because you think about this now, you've got Doug McDaniel on the roster. You've already had, Jarrell Colbert clear up a roster spot by transferring. I'm not going to suggest anybody else needs a transfer. I'm not going to do that. That's not, until it happens, I don't want to talk about potential spots of guys leaving. But that being said, you absolutely can start looking and saying, okay, we have 5, 6, 7 guys we're interested in. How do we shut that down to just 4 guys? How do we pick the best 4 available? This channel, we talk so much about different players linked to Kansas State. How do you cut down everybody and consolidate that list into 4? I've talked about this on the channel, and I will give you that answer. The perfect roster in my mind, the perfect 4 roster additions, this is how I'm going to view it. We have 4 open roster spots. Will there be more? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have any intel on that. As it sits right now, if you can name these 4 players, or add these 4 players, I should say, you might win a dang national championship, win the Big 12. You start by adding a guy like CJ Jones. He's a skilled wing, a dude that could play both as the starting 3 in your system, or a guy coming off the bench behind Arthur Kaluma if Art comes back. In a perfect world, my roster looks like this. The 4 open spots we have right now, you fill with CJ Jones, Michael Brown-Jones, we've talked about him a great length on the channel. A combination of either Clifford Amori or Oumar Ballo. I don't care which one. I personally would probably lean a little bit towards Cliff just because I think I'm more on the athletic big side rather than just like the towering big side, but there is still, obviously, both guys are top 5 players in the portal. You cannot go wrong. I mean, what are we doing? And the fourth guy, you have to get Baba Miller. Baba Miller deserves to play for Jerome Tang. That is a Jerome Tang guy. How much of a Coach Tang thing is it to lose your 6'10 wing guard that can do anything you want him to and be like, well, dang, that is one of the most unique players in college basketball. And then the year after he's gone, find the exact same type of player and develop him into what you need him to be. All I'm saying, that is a heck of a move if you can get Baba Miller there. And there's a lot of people going after each and every one of these dudes on the list. Like, don't just chalk it up to like, well, we got these guys because nobody else wanted them. That's not even close to true. The four are all heavily recruited. So those are my 4 additions as of right now, as it sits. And my starting lineup would look like this. At the 1, Doug McDaniel. He's going to be your point guard. Trading off with Doug, it's going to be Day at the 2. At the 3, I have it split right now because I'm not entirely sure where Art stands. If Art comes back, Arthur Kaluma is your starter at the 3. If not, CJ Jones is your guy. Go CJ Jones. Go, even Baba Miller might stretch into that spot because of how much of a mismatch he can be on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side and in transition. I think he'd be a heck of a player at that wing guard spot. The 4, I got it, Michael Brown-Jones. I think he's going to be a stud, man. He is going to be one of the best shooters in the Big 12, especially at that position. I think he's going to be a heck of a player. And your 5 is either Clifford Amore or Oumar Ballo. And I know that might lead you to the question of, well, what are we doing with David Gasson? Guys, K-State mastered David Gasson's role last year. I'm not saying he has to start. I'm not saying he shouldn't start. I don't know what's going to happen there, but Dave was a heck of a player coming off the bench. He accepted his role, and he played some of the best basketball of his career coming off the bench as that 28-minute guy. K-State might need that role. Then you look at the guys coming off the bench, and obviously it'll depend with Art and CJ Jones, whichever one ends up starting. If Art comes back, Art will start, and CJ will come off the bench as the 6th man of the year. If not, and Art moves on to the NBA, CJ Jones probably your starter there. The guys coming off the bench, I've got it as Baba Miller. I think he can be a heck of a player. David Gasson, we already know what type of player he can be. David Castillo, who I think is going to have a solid role carved out early on him. And the dude is a veteran-style point guard coming in as a freshman. And the 4th guy, Buddy Rich. He's too athletic not to have on the court. And obviously, I didn't specify both RJ and Quez there. I think they're going to be there, and I think they're going to be really good for depth when it comes to the guard play, because at some point you're going to need to switch some things up, whether that be, okay, these guys aren't getting to the cup effectively, these guys aren't valuing the basketball. You're going to need times where you switch that up. So either way, that is my perfect situation. You give me a starting 5 of Doug McDaniel, Day-Day Ames, Arthur Kaluma, Michael Brown-Jones, and Clifford Amore / Oumar Ballo. That is your 5. We're winning a national championship. You're winning the Big 12. Then you get like Baba Miller, a 6'11 wings, a slashing 6'11 wing off the bench. David Gasson, who we know what he can do. David Castillo, who could be one of the best freshman guard in the country. And then Buddy Rich, who's Buddy Rich. Like, I don't know how we don't go 37-0 on that. We might win every single game. But that's going to do it probably for this video. I just wanted to talk about the 3 guys coming to Manhattan here in the near future. 2 guys this weekend. Those 2 will be Baba Miller and CJ Jones. I'm hoping both will end up at K-State. In a perfect world, we see an early announcement. We see an early confirmation that we get both guys. But I will keep you guys updated on what I hear. If either does commit, we'll talk about each in a full-length video for themselves. But guys, I appreciate each and every one of you watching. I will be back at the studio here in the next couple of days, most likely after this weekend, so we should have some good news there. But I hope you all have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. Go Cats.